Started. We have a lot of great information to share. I'm actually going to start by sharing my screen and welcome you again uh, to our training on accessibility for online courses. And I know many of you from the online teaching certification course, and it's good to see others of you as well. So thanks for taking the time to meet with us. And I'm really looking forward to our session today. Just a quick agenda. We are going to take the first 4 minutes and talk about accessibility in general and what it is and why it's important. I know a lot of you probably have that idea, but it's a good reminder. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty with Scott taking us into some of the tools to help make sure that our courses in Canvas are accessible. And we'll show you an accessibility checklist and give you some other resources and support. And feel free to ask questions along the way, as well as at the end. I'd like you to be thinking about, we're going to watch a video first, and I'd like you to be thinking about, and by the way, I want to make sure you are seeing my screen. Are you seeing that yet? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I do want to show you a video on it, but I want you to be thinking about and what you're going to put in the chat. And hopefully all of you will be putting this in the chat in just a minute. What do you think DSU's top accessibility issues are? So what do you think we struggle with the most at our campus at Dixie State University? So get your phrase ready to put in the chat, but we're not going to put in the chat yet. We're going to do it all at once. We're going to watch a quick 4-minute video to introduce the accessibility. This is from UEN. This is the Utah Education Network. So I found this very helpful, and I think you will too.
Teaching. Let's first start with a definition. Typically in higher education, accessibility means to provide students with disabilities the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as students without disabilities with substantially equivalent ease of use and independence. Additionally, there seem to be two main approaches about addressing accessibility barriers. One approach is to focus on supporting the one. This is where we think about compliance, accessibility, one-to-one accommodations, making retroactive fixes. This is where you will engage in making accommodations for a specific student and partnering with your disability service office. Another approach that has gained more popularity over the years is this idea of supporting all students and understanding the connection of accessibility barriers impacting all different types of learners. So with this approach, we often hear more phrases like access, inclusive course design, universal design for learning, and being proactive. So let's talk about some specifics. In our classrooms these days, we know that we have a diverse 21st century learners. For example, we have students who have visible disabilities. We have students who are parents. We have international students, non-traditional students, students with temporary disabilities, students who use mobile devices, first-generation students, students who rely on commuting. We also have students who have invisible disabilities where you can't tell simply by looking at someone how they interact with the world or how they learn. If we think about these types of learners, we can better appreciate things like the idea of making sure our videos are usable. For example, if we have an inaccessible video, that definitely will impact students who are deaf or who are hard of hearing. However, students who are parents may appreciate having captions on videos when they're trying to consume their academic lectures late at night while their child is sleeping. So they can keep the volume down low but still access the information in the video. Another example are international students. We know that students who speak multiple language will sometimes benefit greatly from having captioned or a text version of the words that are being spoken on the screen. Even though caption videos are necessary for students with disabilities, they have great benefit and impact on other types of learners. There's also different factors in learning. Gone are the days where students would show up to the same building, sit in the same desk, listen, and take notes with pen and paper. Nowadays, we need to consider the different types of interactions that our students need. For example, some students really need to be able to see it or hear it or be able to write or do some type of annotation. Other students rely on technology to actually speak into a computer and type for them. Also, the environments in which students learn may dictate the type of learning that can happen. So for example, if a student is at home in their own private space, they can listen to audio lectures, they can take notes, they have a lot of control and a lot of flexibility. We also understand that students these days are trying to maximize their learning no matter where they're at. For example, when they're using public transportation or they're trying to maintain their physical health by working at a gym. So the environment very much has an impact on what students can learn and how they can learn it. Last comment is devices. We definitely know that there are certain tasks that are easier to do with certain types of devices. For example, if I'm going to write a research paper, I would prefer to do that on a laptop. Doing that on a phone is going to be much more cumbersome and even time consuming. So all of these factors together really help emphasize that we need content that is accessible, flexible, and that it is adaptable based on the student's interaction needs, the environment in which they are in, and the device they are using. Finally, here are some quick wins that will help all students.
We'll talk about a few of those quick wins as well. I think I love that video, and if you have a chance, I'll put that in the resources as one of the, you can review those videos on your own as well. But let's talk about the meaning of accessibility. She described that, that it really is providing students the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services. Now, those are based on a few laws, and we mostly hear about 2 different laws when we're referring to accessibility for online courses. We are talking about Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibit discrimination on the basis of disability. And that includes those universities that receive federal funding, and even those that do not as well. Let's quickly go to the next slide, which is just a reminder of DSU's strategic plan for the next 5 years. Those tenets are open, inclusive, comprehensive, and polytechnic. Part of open education, that tenet is open access. Open access to education is all about removing those barriers that make it difficult for students to learn, and all about promoting accessibility, making content easily understood by everyone, including those with specific disabilities. Accessibility issues affect everyone, and so as was mentioned in the video, everyone can be impacted for the good when you make your courses accessible for all students. I know some studies have showed that all students, not just those with disabilities, have improved retention, and they're quicker at completing tasks when the course is deemed accessible. So keep that in mind, that all your students will benefit as well. Well, now Scott is going to show us the top 3 issues at DSU related to disability and how we can solve those. Scott, you're on mute.
I muted myself during the video, I forgot. I put in the chat this website. This is the WSU Online's accessibility page, and I encourage all of you to get familiar with that. It has a lot of good information here. What I'm going to talk about most is Ally, which is a tool for making your courses more accessible. So right here, there's this big red button to learn more about Ally, and you'll probably learn most of what's on this page by being in this session. But to start out with, I'd like to show this really short video. It's about 1.5 minutes that just kind of gives an overview of what Ally is and what it can do. So we'll do that right now.
Blackboard Ally works seamlessly with your learning management system to gauge the accessibility of your content. Let's take a look. When you upload files to your LMS, Ally automatically creates alternative versions, allowing students to choose the type of file that best suits their needs. In addition to creating alternative versions of your files, Ally provides guidance and tips for lasting improvements to your content accessibility. You will see an accessibility score for each file you upload. Select the accessibility score indicator to view information on how to improve file accessibility. The instructor feedback panel provides everything you need to understand and fix the accessibility issues in your file. You can view the overall score for the file, see a list of all issues, follow step-by-step instructions on how to fix the issue, and upload an updated file to replace the existing one. And finally, if allowed by your system administrator, you can access your course accessibility report so you can get the big picture, as well as specific details about the accessibility of your digital course content. The Overview tab shows the accessibility score for the course content grouped by content type, and a list of all the issues identified in the course. The Content tab shows you content with accessibility issues.
Okay, so we're going to look at, this is a view, since I'm a Canvas administrator, I have access to this dashboard that kind of shows the accessibility for all of our spring 2021 courses. And you can see over on the right, we have this little graph here that shows an overall accessibility score of 65.9. And you can compare your own course accessibility when you go to the accessibility report to that 65.9% average to see if you're above or below average. And then you can use Ally to improve that score if you want to make it better.
So Scott, does that mean DSU is getting a D in accessibility right now in our Canvas courses?
Well, at 65%, I think that is a D in most classes. So I guess you could say that. That's kind of an arbitrary score, but obviously the higher the score is, the more accessible your course is. The other thing that's interesting about this report, though, is it shows all of the problems, the most common problems across our institution. And we're going to actually look at the top 4 issues here. So these are the top 4. You can notice this one is far and above the largest issue, and that is that images do not have a description. So, and if you hover over this, it says 86,870 out of 110,000 images have failed this check. So we got a lot of work to do just to improve that one item in our accessibility, and that is important for those who have visual impairments. The second biggest thing is the document does not have any headings. The third is the document has contrast issues, and that's really close with number 2. And then fourth, the document contains images without a description. So similar to the first one, if you are uploading documents that the documents themselves don't have a description, that's a problem as well. So there are lots of other issues that Ally checks, but we're going to actually look at how you would go about fixing these 4 problems in a real course. So, well, it's not a real course, but this is kind of a made-up course that it has some of these problems. So first of all, I want to point out that Ally will, if you go to your files in the course, it will, for every file you upload, it will create alternate versions of that file so that students can access it in whatever way that makes sense for them. And it also gives you an accessibility score with the dials over here. And you can just go through here and click on these dials, and it will give you suggestions about how you can improve the scores on those, or upload new versions of the files to improve the accessibility. But there's also the accessibility report that you saw in the video, and some of you have probably looked at that and maybe even used it, but we'll be spending most of our time using the accessibility report to fix our problems in the course. But let me go back to the home page, and you can see that this is a link to the syllabus file, and it has the gauge there that it's already got a high score. But this only shows up for you. It does not show up for the students. But this option to the right of the syllabus does show up. And here's where those alternative formats that Ally generates are available. So the student, if instead of seeing the PDF, they want to look at the electronic braille version of the syllabus or have the audio of the syllabus read to them, they can choose these alternative formats. Okay, so let's look at the accessibility report, and we'll look at those top 4 issues that we saw overall across all of Dixie State University courses. So you saw this in the video. There's an overview tab. It shows all of the components that you have in your course and how many of those there are. There's also a content tab, which will list each of the files in your course along with the scores, and it's listed by the worst scoring first, so you can focus on that first if you want to. The red ones are critical issues. The orange ones are, intermediate, and then the green ones are really pretty good.
Quick question,
Teri,
Scott.
were you gonna say something?
Yeah, if an instructor doesn't see an accessibility report in the course that they're looking at and trying to decide how to improve the accessibility of the course, what do they do?
It's probably because it's been turned off in the settings. You'd go to the course settings and go to the navigation tab, and that course accessibility report would probably be down here somewhere. And if this was the course accessibility report, you could just click here and select enable or drag it up to the top and then make sure you hit save once you've made any changes to that. Then every course should have that available to them. Okay. Any other questions at this point? Okay, back to the course accessibility report. Over on the right, you have these 2 areas. So these are the easy fixes right here, content with the easiest issues to fix. Or you may want to choose to focus on the lowest scoring content first. But either way you want to work on it, I would suggest you fix the easiest issues first. And so we'll click this start here. And we can see that we have an image here that has 1 issue and it's got a low score. We've got this PowerPoint file that it has 2 issues and it's got a kind of a lower score as well. And then this Word document that is missing some headings, which we will also fix. So these 3 files here have all 4 of those main problems that we have institution-wide. So let's focus on this first one. You just click on the item, it will open up a new tab. Okay, in this case, it's an image and it's missing a description or an alt tab. So the great thing about Ally is it not only lets you fix items, it also has instructional pieces. So if you don't know how to fix it, first of all, you can see, well, what does this mean that it's missing a description? So you can read about descriptions, an alternative description or alt text is what's used by screen readers so that if there's a visually impaired person, they will know what that picture actually is. Otherwise, they just hear image and they have no idea what that is. Also, this describes why you would provide an alt description for images. It also helps facilitate searching, and it provides better context for why that image was included in the course. So not only does it tell you what it is, it tells you how to do it. So you could just write a description here, but there are some really good examples. So let's look at this one first. So for example, this picture right here, what kind of a description would you write about that? You're welcome to unmute or put something in the chat, and then we'll see what Ally suggests as a model description for this image. Anybody have a suggestion for this example that's on the right, that's grown for biofuel? If you were describing it to a person who's blind, how would you describe that image?
Scott, I'd probably entitle it "Grown for Biofuel."
Okay.
And then get, looks like man standing in a field of some sort of crop or something.
Okay.
I don't know how much how much can these titles handle?
I don't know if there's yeah, they can definitely handle a paragraph, and we'll look at some examples. So that's great, and your description is very similar. Their model says a farmer standing in a field of yellow canola crops with a sign in the foreground reading "grown for biofuel." So you definitely want to include whatever text is in there, unless there's just way too much. But you want to highlight the most important parts of that graphic for your audience. Let's look at a couple more examples. They have some great examples here. So this one, they give an example of a poor description, which is westminster.png, which is just the name of the file. And you do see this a lot, unfortunately. So a better example would be 5 boats traveling on the Thames with the Palace of Westminster and Big Ben in the background. So you kind of get the idea of giving a context to the photo so that you're describing it to somebody who's blind could get the gist of what that is. Then you might also consider the context of the image and maybe what kind of a course you're teaching in order to change the description. So for example, if a history class, they give an example of a field covered with poppies. Poppies have become a symbol of remembrance for World War I. And that would be a lot different than if you were teaching an art class. So in an art class, maybe it would be a painting by Van Gogh in post-impressionism using dramatic brushstrokes. It shows a field with poppies in the foreground, trees in the background, and dark skies. Okay. And then graphs are a challenge because they have a lot of information in them that they display visually. But here's an example showing how you might describe that chart right there for somebody who is blind. And you're definitely pointing out the major components of that graph and the relationships between the different parts of them. And then you also have the option to mark an image as decorative, but you want to be very careful about using this decorative option when you're describing an image. Something like this that is truly decorative but doesn't have any real meaning. This is a good example of when you could mark an image as decorative. Okay, so let's considering this image here, does anybody have some suggestions about what kind of a image description we could write for this image? Don't be shy. Or I can just take a stab at it.
Dixie State football players gathered together with Brooks the Bison, the mascot, in the front row. Something like that.
Yeah.
Would you be descriptive, like saying Dixie State football players in red, in their red uniforms?
That's even better, in red uniforms.
And if you knew something about the photo, that getting ready to run on the field for a football game, you could describe it lots of different ways. Right,
great. And I'd probably, if I was actually making this description for real, I'd probably spend a little bit more time and figuring out exactly what I wanted to portray to whatever the audience for this course was. But for now, I'll just click that. That's a fairly descriptive description of what this photo is for somebody who's blind. So I'll go ahead and click Add, and then notice it has improved that score for this one item to 100%, which is great. And then you can close and go on to the next one. So any questions so far? Ally is just a great tool that lets you see what needs to be fixed, provides some suggestions, and then helps you actually do it.
Looks like Linda had a question.
Okay.
You're on mute, Linda.
No, I was just going to say on the photograph, I would want a sentence on why the two football players were on their knees there. There must be a reason why that photograph includes that. And depending on the class, it might be significant or not.
Yeah, great point.
I mean, that's,
so, and you know your content better than anybody, so you're going to be the best equipped to give these descriptions.
If I were explaining that to my international students, they would definitely want to know why they were down on their knees.
Yeah,
it's kind of
good
odd.
Point. Okay, let's look at the next one. And notice that this particular PowerPoint presentation has two issues. So we'll look and see what those issues are just by clicking on it. And the first issue is that this presentation contains images that are missing a description. So the same kind of a thing. This is a picture within the PowerPoint file that does not have a description. So the same problem for somebody who's visually impaired. They won't know what that is. They probably would see the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and then image. So they wouldn't know, they could probably tell something about what that is, but they wouldn't necessarily know. So again, you have what this means. You can read about it, why it's important, and then you can go to how to add descriptions, and then it takes you through step by step. Okay, but I'm going to skip this, and we're going to actually go through it. We'll look at the other problem with this problem. So we'll look at all issues. So the other issue is this presentation contains text with insufficient contrast. So if you look at the text here against this white background, if you are colorblind, that may be very hard to read, or it may be hard to read even if you're not, just because there's not enough contrast in that text on the slides. So you can learn about how to fix this problem. First of all, it's always best if you have the original document, and since we're in files, we could actually download the document right here. I've already got it downloaded, and I'm using PowerPoint for Office 365, so I'll choose that option. And then it gives me step-by-step instructions on what to do. Talks a little bit about contrast issues, and you can see some examples there. I won't go through all the examples, but it also gives a recommendation to download the Paciello Group Color Contrast Analyzer. And that allows you to see whether something meets the contrast ratios for accessibility or not. So I've downloaded that and installed it. This is available for Windows and Macintosh, but a warning on the Mac, I could not get this eyedropper to be able to select colors to work. So that's why I'm on Windows showing this. But you have a foreground color and a background color. Now the background color does match what we've got on the slide here. I could actually go use the eyedropper and select it, but I want to choose the foreground color, which is used for the text right here. So I'm going to click on the eyedropper, and I'm going to come over and notice it magnifies whatever your mouse is over. And here I've got the color I need. So if I click it, then it changes the foreground color, and you see the example preview right here. But the important thing is the contrast ratio and the minimum specifications for meeting accessibility standards. And this fails for regular text. It also fails for large text. So we've got to have more contrast in this PowerPoint presentation. So there's a few different ways that you can fix this, and you can go through the instructions here and maybe change the color that's used on the slide, or even better, go to the slide master, so you change it on every slide. But there's an easier way, I think, of approaching this. And let me bring up the actual file. Let's see, get that right here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up in PowerPoint. So we're going to make a change within the actual document. Here it is. We've got this text that we need to change. But another way you could approach this is just to change the design, the template that you're using, to pick one that has more contrast. If it's not that important, you could just easily change the template that you're using. It's not real fancy, but it does have a lot of contrast here. Okay, so I fixed the contrast issue just by changing the design template that's used. Now the other problem is this slide right here. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is an image, and to fix this, if you right click on the image, you have an option to edit the alt text within PowerPoint. So all it has right here is the website that it came from. And you definitely want to describe this more. And in the interest of time, I'll probably just say something like Maslow's, hierarchy, a pyramid, I should say what the shape is. So a pyramid representing Maslow. You ever notice how you can't type when you're in front of a bunch of people? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm going to leave in the website because that would allow the person to actually go to the website to see it. And maybe there's a good description there if they've cared about entering the alt tag there. But I might say, you know, what also this contains, it has biological and physical needs at the bottom, at the base of the pyramid, leading up to self-actualization and transcendence at the top. So I would probably add that, but in the interest of time, I'll just say that's my alt text and just close it. And then I would need to save this file. And now I can go ahead and close it because I fixed the PowerPoint presentation itself. So now I can come back here and I can go to next since I fixed it. And now I'm going to actually upload the new version of this PowerPoint presentation. So I'll click browse and I could either drag and drop, or I've got it right here. I just saved it. So now it's uploading a new file, and this new file, notice the score has gone to 100% because I fixed those two problems that were with that file. Okay. Any questions about that?
Scott, does it change it in the course as well?
Yes. Yeah. By clicking that replace, that upload and replace, it has uploaded that to the files area, and we could actually, in fact, let's go to files. And I've got motivation here, and it has changed the accessibility to perfect. I also cheated and did this beforehand and uploaded it, and you notice that that has the same score. So it has replaced the file that was there.
Scott, is this something an end user student can go in and alter if they're having trouble because of this contrast issue?
They can select some of the alternative versions, but they cannot do what we just did. This is something that you have to do as the instructor to fix the problem.
But possibly if something like this were, say you didn't want to destroy the design element, I was thinking of a couple of other things that I would have done with an eyedropper on a darker green or something.
Right. Yeah, and I could have fixed it that way instead.
But then the alternate versions a student might see, give them some flexibility on that. Hopefully.
Yeah, there's not, other than the alternate versions that Ally creates for any uploaded file, they don't have the same flexibility that you do.
That's an important consideration in designing them. Thanks.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's fix the last problem. Go back here. This is a Word document without headings. So let's go ahead and click on it. And you can see this is the number 2 problem that we have besides the images without the description. So what this is you've got a document that instead of using headings, you're using bolding or formatting somehow to delineate text. But the screen readers don't pick that up. So this can describe what the issue is and why it's important. It facilitates reading. It's essential for students with visual impairments, and it provides easier navigation within that document per screen readers. Then to how to actually add the headings, you need to be using the original file. In this case, it's a Word document, and I have that, and I'm using Word for Office 2016. So it gives you the step-by-step instructions, and basically what you're going to do is replace these headings that are used just with bolding and text size to use the actual styles in Word. So I'm going to bring that up in Word, and we'll do the same thing. So here's the document. And you can see right here, it's just using the normal style here. All it's been formatted using a larger font size and bolding. So to fix it, we can just highlight that text and select one of the styles. So we want to use the heading 1 as our first level. And this would also be heading 1 here.
Will those headings not be high enough contrast?
These will be high enough contrast. Actually, because the screen reader, it may not actually look this way to the screen. It won't look this way to the screen reader, but they'll be able to navigate better using this. And it's a good point, though, that's not a whole lot of contrast there when you're just looking at the file. So
The resolution is a little lower on our end as well, viewing your screen too.
right.
But, sometimes I like to go in and change those default heading styles as well to bold, to make them even easier for others to see. But yeah, I think Microsoft has made it, and we'll see.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so but I've added those styles to this document. I've saved it so I can close it down now. And then we'll have to come back over here and go next. And then this, in fact, that just tells you, you can actually customize the heading style, and this shows you how you can do that. But we'll skip that step, and we'll upload the new version of that file that we just saved. So here it is. And it's uploading it to files. It's going to show the preview. So there's the preview, and it has increased our score to 100%. Okay, so there are some other images and things that we could fix in this course, but just by doing those simple little fixes here, it's increased our score a little bit in the course itself. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out real quick is that Canvas also has some accessibility tools built in, well, one in particular to the rich content editor. So any page or item that you're editing using the editor, there is an item at the bottom that looks like a little person inside of a circle, and this is the accessibility checker for whatever item you're on. And you click it, and if there are any items that it detects are accessibility problems, in this case, it's a table that doesn't have a caption describing the contents of the table. I'm not going to fix this, but I would definitely want to add a caption for this table, or choose some other way to do the alignment of the stuff here, the text and the image that maybe doesn't use a table, so that it wouldn't have this problem. But I could add a caption there. Click on next, and also with the table, you want to make sure that you use table headers. And I'd put maybe add a header row, and then I would put something in that row. But then the other problem is I've got a list of 2 things right here with these dashes but lists should be formatted as lists. So I could go ahead and say formatted as a list, and it changes that to bullet. And so I fixed a couple of these things, but I didn't fix all of it.
Scott,
and
remind us how
that-
you access the Canvas accessibility checker.
Yeah, it's any document, page, announcements, discussions, assignments, wherever this rich text editor, rich content editor appears, it's at the bottom of the editor, this little person with a circle around them. That's where you access the accessibility checker. Okay, and I did update the syllabus, but I'll just cancel this. And then one final thing, this is sort of related to accessibility, but for any pages in Canvas, I'll go down to my pages here, and we'll just look at the IT services page. There is a Microsoft Immersive Reader, and this is automatically generated for any page in Canvas. And students will see this, you'll see this, but by clicking on the Immersive Reader, it opens in a new tab and you can actually have it read to you.
IT services. Dixie ID. Help desk sec.
Not a real good example of something to be read. And there are some options here. You can configure the text preferences, some of the grammar options, and whether you want to focus on the line that you're reading or several lines of reading. You could even choose the language. So that Microsoft Immersive Reader is available on any page within Canvas, and be sure to let your students know about that if you think they would benefit from it. Okay, I think that is everything that I wanted to show you. I did show you the how to fix the 4 most common problems with Ally. It's a great tool that you can use in any course just to help improve accessibility for your students. So Teri, anything else to add?
Hey, Scott, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
As faculty develop online courses, is this something that the Dixie Online folks help with? Like, are they going to be looking at the courses and making sure they are accessible and helping to fix some of these issues?
I can
That's a
answer
good
that.
question. I think that's a good question for Ethan. Ethan,
Yeah.
you want to introduce yourself and, and answer the question?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Scott. I'm Ethan DeCuster, and I'm a project manager here at DSU Online. And to answer your question, Mike, absolutely, that's what we're here for. We have learning designers and myself and the team of students, actually, part-time employees here that are technologists. And we're happy to go through your course, your online course, and help run the Ally reports and fix accessibility problems, and check through and make sure that those things are all squared away. We do that kind of automatically with our process, any courses that we help develop, but we're also happy to do that for any course, online course, even if we didn't develop it. So if that's a useful service to any of your faculty or instructors, feel free to contact me, and we can set something up where we can get access to your course and start cleaning up some of the accessibility for you, for sure.
Is that service only available for an online course, or if a faculty member just uses Canvas extensively, can they still use those services?
I believe that we would be limited to online sections, yeah.
Okay, so then I'll throw this out to Scott then. So if I'm teaching a course that I use Canvas extensively, but it's not an online class, who would be the best person to talk to if I was having troubles or just wanted someone to check to see if it really was accessible?
That's a good question, and we're still trying to define our roles between IT and the Center for Teaching and Learning, and also the Center for the Disabilities Office would probably want to be involved in this as well. We would definitely be able to help you within IT instructional service, at least as part of the Ally checks go and what's available through the accessibility checker in Canvas. So yeah, we'd be glad to work with you. And I think Diana probably would say the same.
Yeah, I mean, really what we do is help you in recognizing what you needed to do and the changes you might need to make. Maybe not go through all of your course for you because there is really just me. The director has different things that she's doing. And then the same with Scott, there's not a lot of us. So to say that we would help everybody go through their entire course, it would be more of an educational piece to help you go through your own courses.
Okay, excellent.
The other thing we haven't talked about much is captioning a video, but that definitely is a big part of accessibility as well. So that's something that Dave Mortensen can help with on the IT side as well.
Yeah, when you shared the top issues that Ally has caught, that's one of the things that Ally doesn't scan is your videos for captions. But I would imagine that's up there with the image alt text as far as something that we need to do as a university to improve accessibility overall. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Dave, and Kaltura has automatic captioning feature that you can use. And if it's for a disability accommodation, we also have professional captioning services that we can use some funding to tap into as well. So you can talk to the Disability Resource Center or to me, and we can help you to get some captioning for videos in Canvas and resources for that.
Great, thank you. And
Ally will check HTML files to see if the videos that are embedded in those have captioning, but it won't check pages, for example. So Ethan has a good point there.
We mentioned Ethan, and he's at the bottom of this page here. This is DSU Online, so it's online.dixie.edu/accessibility. And there is an accessibility checklist that includes some of the most common things that you can do as instructors to make your courses accessible. Scott highlighted 4 of our top issues and our top challenges at DSU. Number 1 on this accessibility checklist is to include closed captions for videos. Also, when you're some quick wins for everybody. One of the things that you can do, certainly when we design clear, consistent navigation in Canvas, and make sure that all our documents, all of our content is clear and well organized, that makes it easier not only for students with disabilities, but for everyone to navigate. But especially if you're using a screen reader, if you have a visual challenge, using those heading styles in Word documents, and using a master course template that has been designed by our learning designers with accessibility in mind can be very helpful as well. And you can consult with them on your online courses to make sure that your course is accessible to people with disabilities and to everyone. A quick win for everyone as well is if you're using YouTube videos, you can search for videos that already contain closed captioning. But it's actually, as Ethan mentioned, not too difficult to bring those YouTube videos in, upload them, and have captioning. But if I were to go to YouTube and do a quick search for a video maybe that I wanted to search for, and excuse the ads and things like that, but let's say I want to search for content on universal design for learning for higher education. I can then filter, and you'll notice, and by the way, I hope you're seeing my screen okay, Scott, with YouTube. I can click this filter. It brings up lots of videos, but I've noticed it'll show a little CC by those that are closed captioned. But notice this one is not. If I want to just filter just for those that have subtitles, I can choose those that have subtitles and closed captioning, and then it will filter except for these ads. I haven't gotten YouTube to get rid of those ads yet. I guess that's part of their business model. Then it will show me those videos that are just closed captioned for the topic that I want. So that's a quick, easy way to hopefully your favorite video is the one that's closed caption, but a quick win there. Another quick win is to avoid those scanned PDFs. If you find something that really needs to be scanned, then see if you can't OCR it. Use optical character recognition and make it have readable text, because scanned PDFs are showstoppers for a lot of students with disabilities, especially those that have to use a screen reader. So be careful with that. Here's just
by the way, that is our #1 serious issue that we have at our institution that I didn't point out when I was sharing the data.
The scanned PDFs that are not readable.
Right.
It's a big issue.
Ally offers that OCR, Terry, that feature you were just describing. So it's one of the alternative formats or whatever that you can use, and it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing for sure. And also, right issues is another potential, area with scanning PDF, scanning textbooks and stuff like that. So that's another thing to watch out for.
Thank you.
So Ally will just OCR it for you in Ally. Is that what you're saying?
It produces like a new file that you can then download or put wherever you need. So I don't think it like changes the original. I think it just creates a new version, a new PDF that's got the OCR in it.
Do you have time to show that to us, Scott or Ethan? Lauren, is that something you'd like to see? Because I haven't seen that in Ally either, so I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to OCR things on other websites and stuff, but I was just, because as Scott's been going, I've been going along in my Canvas, and my Canvas, I guess because it's a Mac, doesn't do the things that his is doing in Ally, being able to change things right there. So I was just kind of curious about that.
It does have, depending on what the file is and which platform, Mac or PC, the instructions will be different, and maybe some things you aren't able to fix on the Mac. It just depends on what it is. And there are actually some things in Ally that it doesn't have suggestions for fixing yet, such as images that don't have enough contrast in them. That's one area that it doesn't have instruction on how to fix that.
And that might be something, Lauren, that since you teach art, not all artists use high contrast.
I don't even know what to think about the description for imaging too. That's just kind of would be an entire project for entire full-time job for another individual to do with my classes.
Maybe that's a mini grant opportunity, hire a teaching assistant to do that. But yeah, it would be hard for someone with a visual disability to appreciate that. I have color blindness runs in my family. I have an uncle who was colorblind. Both my brothers are colorblind, and I have a nephew who is colorblind. And so I used to work in the software industry and worked for a company that made online textbooks. And so we would often just run things by my nephew and say, how's this color scheme? And I remember there was one online textbook, he couldn't even read the headings. The headings there was just not a high enough contrast. He had, I think, blue-green color blindness, and he could not see the text within the heading color. And so, boy, keeping these things in mind certainly can not only make sure that it's actually readable for people with disabilities, but even more easily readable for the rest of us. I recommend a one-on-one appointment, a one-on-one consultation with either Ethan and his team or with Scott and his team to go through any accessibility issues that you're concerned with. Here are some other accessibility resources. We showed the video on the UEN. And let's see, Scott, if you wouldn't mind sharing this in the chat, sharing the PowerPoint in the chat so everyone has all of these links. And you'll have a link to this PowerPoint as well. We showed you the DSU.
I don't have that link with me, so.
Oh, okay. Just to share. I can do
Yeah,
that as well. Like I'll just click the share button and copy that link and put it in the chat for everyone. If I can find the chat here, there we go. Okay, so you should all have now, anyone, you have to be, well, I guess anyone on the internet with that link can view it. So feel free to use that. There are a couple other good resources. We mentioned on this accessibility checklist, and I would definitely go through this and make sure that your courses have all of these things. And when you click on the collapsible bullet point there, the accordion list, it will give you more information about how you can do that. You also can download that accessibility checklist to print if you want to read that offline as well. Another item on, I think Scott showed you this page where you can learn more about Ally. There are a couple other good resources. There's a QM document, and then there is this document from WICHE, which is the Western, let's see, something commission in higher education. But they have a good, this is old, this is from 2017, I think, but I love their table where they actually talk about, okay, if, you know, you may have students that have hearing impairment. Well, what should you do? What's an online strategy that you could do to help them? Well, provide captions for all your videos and provide audio type materials. They also have online strategies for students and assistive technology that can help, but they give you lots of good strategies that you can use depending on the type of disability. Also keep in mind that the Disability Resource Center at DSU, I guess I should put this back in present mode, can also help you with your individual accommodations. And so, and they have some good frequently asked questions on their site as well. But if you have, let's entertain any other questions. We have 1 minute left. So any other questions here that you have for Scott or Ethan or me? And if you want to make an appointment for a one-on-one consultation, you have their information as well through these links.
I have a quick question about fillable forms where I would normally meet with students face-to-face and set up an internship, for example. Now I have an embedded file asking them to get a signature from their supervisor and submit it to me. Do you have any tips about improving that aspect of forms or assignments?
Is it a Google form?
No, I don't know. Good question. I'll have to go back and look now that I've seen the presentation. I don't know.
Could be a PDF as well. I don't know, Ethan, do you, I don't really have much experience with that. I don't know, Ethan, do you have any recommendations there?
No, typically those fillable forms are just PDFs that you make in Adobe. And so if you just make sure that they're tagged appropriately, so the screen reader knows in which order to read things, that's usually the biggest problem with those types of things is if you have, like, for example, columns or something, you tag it and then you say this first, this second, this third. So that's probably one of the biggest issues. But then, you know, as far as like students in printing it out, getting a signature on it, scanning it, sending it back.
That's what they've been doing. Yeah.
That's fine for you. You know, there's not, the students aren't needing to see those scanned files. So I think that's okay. As long as the original PDF you're sharing with them is accessible and tagged appropriately, then you should be fine.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
If you need help, again, general technical support issues, you can call the help desk, but specifically accessibility issues, you can call Scott directly or email him directly. Also DSU Online, that's Ethan's group. You can actually make an appointment with a learning designer to walk through your course with this link, or you can check the accessibility checklist out. Again, the Disability Resource Center is there to help you with specific accommodations that you need for specific students as well.
And of course, the Center for Teaching and Learning is here for the classes here on campus.
Great. Thank you. Once a month, we'll plan on doing, based on the survey we sent out in the fall and the responses we received from faculty about what training you were interested in. We'll plan to hold a session once a month at least, and our learning designers will help present those about how you can increase student engagement and build community and authentic assessment, applied assessment in your online courses. So look forward to those. Thanks for taking the time to come and attend today. Again, the link to the PowerPoint is in the chat, and it provides you with all these links as well. But if you need help, reach out. I think the best kept secret on campus is DSU online learning designers that provide one-on-one consultations with faculty as you need it, either in person or via Zoom. And the next best kept secret on campus, Scott Allen and the instructional IT instructional services group that can also provide one-on-one Canvas training, and they can work with you one-on-one with Ally as well to make your course more accessible. So thank you, and thanks for all the good work that you do to make your courses accessible and engaging for students.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Scott and I will stay online if anyone else has any